Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're doing something really cool. We're unpacking the actual financial reality behind this massive modern tech boom we're living through. We hear a ton of noise about electric vehicles taking over our roads and smart grids completely revolutionizing our cities. But the real story? It actually lies a lot deeper. It's about the highly specialized component manufacturers working totally behind the scenes, the folks actually making these massive infrastructure shifts physically possible. So today, we're taking Permanent Magnets Limited's Q4 and FY26 investor presentation and translating all that raw data to see exactly how these huge macro-level tech shifts equal some serious bottom-line growth. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, powering the modern world. Second, PML, a legacy of trust. Third, we'll hit the Q4 and FY26 financial surge. And finally, number 4, drivers of future growth.
All right, Section 1, powering the modern world. Before we even talk about the company itself, we really need to zoom out and just look at the massive physical shifts happening across global industries right now.
Seriously, consider the undeniable shift happening on our roads right now. An electric vehicle isn't just a traditional car with a big battery slapped inside of it, right? It's an incredibly intricate piece of highly specialized engineering. And to build millions of these new vehicles, global manufacturers require an absolute mountain of specialized components, sensors, and robust structural elements that can actually handle some really unique thermal and physical stresses. The demand is literally exploding. Entire supply chains are being completely rewired to prioritize these cutting-edge, high-precision industrial parts. And the companies that can supply these parts at scale, well, they're finding themselves in an incredibly lucrative position.
But it's not just vehicles. We're also seeing this urgent, global push to modernize our power grids. Governments and utility companies all over the world are rapidly ripping out decades-old analog infrastructure and replacing it with high-tech smart meters to track, manage, and optimize energy use. And just like the EV market, this massive infrastructural overhaul requires millions upon millions of highly reliable specialized components. So you've got these two massive industrial shifts, EVs and smart energy infrastructure, acting as the twin engines of modern industrial demand. It's creating this massive vacuum for reliable manufacturing. Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, PML, a legacy of trust. Now that we understand that high-demand tech landscape, let's introduce the specific engine driving these components forward.
So meet Permanent Magnets Limited, or PML. They represent this really fascinating industrial duality. On one hand, you have the absolute bedrock reliability of a legacy manufacturer. They've been operating, surviving economic cycles, and building industrial trust since 1960. This isn't some flashy startup that just appeared overnight. But on the other hand, they hold the incredibly stringent, cutting-edge ISO and IATF quality certifications that today's most advanced sectors demand. It's the perfect contrast. They combine decades of hardened, intuitive manufacturing experience with the exact technical certifications needed to be trusted by today's global EV and smart grid giants. Look, it's one thing to design a high-tech precision component on a computer in a pristine lab. It is an entirely different challenge to actually manufacture that component reliably, millions of times over in a heavy industrial environment. PML has a proven track record of executing right in that sweet spot. They successfully merged the heavy lifting of legacy industrial strength with the specialized, intricate needs of modern clean tech. And that's a massive competitive moat, because scaling hardware is notoriously difficult, and PML has already crossed that valley.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, Q4 and FY26 financial surge. This is where we see how all this incredible market positioning actually translates into hard financial growth.
I just want to let this massive number sink in for a second. 47%. No, that isn't some multi-year projection or a hopeful forecast. This is their actual staggering year-over-year Q4 revenue jump. Looking at their standalone operations, PML's revenue leaped from 45.28 crore in Q4 of FY25 all the way up to 66.54 crore in Q4 of FY26. I mean, that is an explosive acceleration for a legacy manufacturing company. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that they aren't just sitting on the sidelines. They are actively and aggressively capturing that massive modern industrial demand we were just talking about.
Now, revenue growth is a great start, obviously. But as we know, true business leverage shows up in profitability. For the full year, PML's EBITDA grew from 27.22 crore in FY25 to 39.01 crore in FY26. That is a massive 43% jump in pure operational profitability. So they aren't just selling more volume for the sake of top-line vanity metrics. Their core business operations are genuinely generating significantly more cash. And this kind of operational leverage gives a manufacturing company the exact fuel it needs to reinvest, expand, and frankly outpace competitors.
Let's look at how this builds across the entire standalone P&L. You can clearly see how that top-line surge just cascades flawlessly down the income statement. Take a look at the profit before taxes for Q4. It jumped from 2.76 crore previously to an incredible 5.72 crore. That's a 107% year-over-year jump. And when you factor in exceptional items, that Q4 PBT actually surged by an impressive 123% to 6.16 crore. This right here is a comprehensive view of a company just firing on all cylinders, turning those macroeconomic tailwinds and operational efficiency into serious, undeniable bottom-line results.
All right, Section 4, Drivers of Future Growth. With the financial reality established, let's unpack why these numbers matter so much for their long-term outlook.
You know, it's really easy to get lost in raw financial data, but the core so what of this entire explainer is expanding margins. Over the full year of FY26, PML's EBITDA margin grew from 14% to 17%. Now, in the world of physical manufacturing, expanding your margins while simultaneously scaling your revenue is incredibly difficult. This margin expansion proves that PML is executing with increasing efficiency. They aren't just selling more. They are successfully operating in highly lucrative sectors, managing their expenses tightly and squeezing more pure profit out of every single component that leaves their facility.
And look, a financial surge like this is no accident. It's the direct result of a careful, deliberate, strategic review by the company's leadership. They clearly identified those macroeconomic trends we talked about, the rise of EVs, the vital need for smart grids, the push for reliable industrial infrastructure, and they very purposefully positioned their legacy operations to capitalize on those exact growth drivers. It's that potent combination of strategic foresight and ruthless manufacturing execution that transforms a standard legacy business into a modern, high-growth asset.
So, that brings us to a final thought to end our explainer today. How will the rapid acceleration of electric infrastructure continue to impact specialized, reliable component manufacturers like Permanent Magnets Limited in the coming years? We've seen their incredible 47% revenue jumps and severe margin expansions today. If this global technological transition is truly only just beginning, what does the next decade hold for the legacy industrial powerhouses quietly fueling this revolution from the background? It's an absolutely fascinating dynamic to watch unfold. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.